Hey there, viewers, it's official. Diddy has just been sentenced to life in prison. But while the courtroom may have reached its verdict, the story is far from over. What happens next behind those walls, and who else could be pulled into the fallout? Let's get into it. Chapter 1. Unit 31 is making noise again. It was 3:42 in the damn morning, and I was supposed to be done. Not almost done, not halfway done. Done. I'd already clocked my last inspection at C2 near the waterline, locked up the toolkit, and was halfway through a lukewarm cup of vending machine coffee that tasted like melted rubber. But then my walkie crackled. "Carlo, you still down there?" I didn't answer right away, just stared at the vent shaft wall like it owed me an apology. "Yeah," I finally muttered, pressing the button like it offended me. "What is it?" "Unit 31's making noise again." Now see that was not how you wanted to end your night shift, because Unit 31 wasn't just another row. It wasn't even a proper wing anymore. It was sealed off last year after the blackout, and ever since they dumped that new inmate in there, the one everyone pretends ain't who he is, it's been acting weird. Lights flicker in ways they shouldn't. Doors don't stay locked unless you triple verify. And then there's the hum. Always that damn hum. I rubbed my temples. Same as before. Same frequency, louder this time. Rhythmic. That's what got me. Not clanking, not airflow, not some raccoon trying to die inside a wall. Rhythmic. Like a song you forgot you knew, playing behind your skull. I grabbed the damn toolkit again. Same rusted handle, same busted latch. Every screw inside labeled by hand, my handwriting, shaky from caffeine, years of habit. I kept the little folded up paper in the side pocket like always. Shift log from 2019, right before Epstein died, right before they locked down the shoe and started pretending the cameras glitched. The vent I needed to reach ran right behind 31's outer wall, accessible through a narrow maintenance tunnel that smelled like mildew, bleach, and old copper pipes. You ever smelled mold growing on metal? It's different. It's sour and sad, like something that wasn't supposed to live is still trying. The walk was tight, shoulder to wall, one flashlight jammed under my chin, knees popping with every crouch. Most of the MDC was built like a bunker, but the understructure? It's like an afterthought, just concrete stitched with rust and regrets. When I reached the access panel, I already felt it in my bones. The humming wasn't random. It pulsed. 3 quick bursts. Pause. 3 again. Like Morse code you couldn't read, only feel. The metal around the vent cover was warm. That ain't right. Nothing down there should be warm unless a line's running wrong. I checked the schematics back in March. This part of the airflow system was passive. No heat coils, no direct flow, just old filtered air meant to loop back through secondary exchange. It shouldn't hum. It sure as hell shouldn't breathe. I unscrewed the panel, slow, one bolt at a time. My hands were steady. That's one thing about me. I don't spook easy. I was on this crew when the cameras failed in 2019, when one of the COs found that inmate hanging 2 hours after the system said he was asleep. I've seen blood pools dry in corners nobody cleans. But this made my stomach twist. The second I pulled the panel loose, the hume cut out, like it knew. And behind the slats, tucked between insulation and an old maintenance tag from 2004, was a bundle of metal shavings, twisted wire, and God help me, a piece of cloth. Black, thin, looked like satin or some luxury sleep mask, but scorched around the edges. And then I saw the scratches. Claw marks, not fingernails, not rodent. I'm talking 3 thick, ragged lines, gouged deep into the inside of the shaft, running outward. From the direction of cell 31. You don't scratch like that unless you're trying to get out. I leaned in with the flashlight, half expecting to see eyes staring back. Nothing, just dust and darkness. Then something fluttered down. A piece of paper. No, not paper. It was heavier, like cardstock, sealed in a plastic envelope. I picked it up. No markings on the back, just a name scrawled on the front in clean black ink. Arlo Play, back initiated. Itched the bear for a long time. My name, not my title, not maintenance, not contractor, just Carlo. I hadn't heard my name spoken in this building in years, not unless it was HR asking why I refused retirement again. I opened the envelope with my knife. Inside wasn't a message, not in words, just a drawing, a mirror, a cell, and a man staring at his reflection. The reflection wasn't him. It was someone else, someone younger, someone smiling. Behind me, down the corridor, the overhead light buzzed and flickered. I turned off the flashlight and let my eyes adjust. Slowly, the humming started again. But this time, it wasn't from the vent. It was behind me. I spun light back on, toolkit dropped, hands shaking now despite myself. I scanned the hall. Nothing. Except Carlo. It was faint, like a whisper carried on ductwork, a sound made not by voice, but by air, remembering how your name sounded once. I slammed the panel shut, didn't even bother rebolting it, just backed away slow, one hand on the wall to keep steady. My boots felt heavier than usual, like the floor wanted me to stay, like I'd stepped into something deeper than routine. I radioed in. Yeah, it was a false alarm. I lied. Copy. Copy. Hume gone. I didn't mention the scratches, or the envelope, or the way I still heard my name every third breath. Back at the supply room, I logged out, but didn't go home, just sat in the locker room for a while. Lights off. Vending machine humming louder than it should. I pulled out the drawing again. The mirror. The smile. See, the thing is, I remember when they brought him in, not officially, but I was there. I was the one who checked the airflow, right after they sealed 31. The one with the mirror. They called him, not by name, that wasn't allowed. Said it complicated the trial. Said it created bias. But everyone knew. He didn't speak that night either, just looked at the walls. They say he still hasn't said a word. Not to the guards, not to medical. Just watches, repeats things he hears, like he's waiting for the right version of the script. That's what they don't tell you about this place. You don't go mad from the noise. You go mad from the rehearsal, because sometimes the walls remember better than you do, and if you listen long enough, they start practicing you. I'm not going back to 31. Not tonight. Maybe not again. But I know it's not done. Because I swear, when I left the locker room, the last light on the wall flickered twice, and in that flicker, I saw myself walking back toward the shaft. Still holding the envelope. Still humming, the final verdict was a folded sheet. You ever think about how boring paper is? I mean, really think about it. Most people don't. They just take it for what it is. White rectangle, black marks, information. But me, I stare at paper all day. That's my whole job. Official court copies, verdict reports, seal stamps, intake slips, duplications, evidence chain forms, paper on paper on paper. And after a while, the boring stuff starts to stand out more than the exciting stuff. Because when a sheet goes missing, or worse, when it looks like it was never supposed to be printed at all, that's when your stomach drops. July 2nd, 2025, sentencing day for Sean Combs. Or at least, that's what the docket said. I was in the back office of the clerk's division, stuck with one of the weirdest assignments I've ever had. I'm a paralegal, junior technically, but been here 3 years now. I've done copy jobs for high-profile names before. We're talking Rico heads, tech billionaires, folks that had their own armed guards just for the paperwork. But nothing ever came down with the kind of restrictions this one had. First red flag? The file was sealed, not just in the record system, but physically. Wax seal, metallic strip, and a biometric code that had to be unlocked by 2 different people at the same time. Warden's assistant stood behind me while I opened it, didn't say a word, just nodded when I asked if I was cleared. Second flag? It didn't say Sean Combs on the front, just 37,452 to 54. Same number that had shown up on a dozen internal memos that week, and none of those memos ever mentioned trial results. Just playback scheduling, integration tracking, and the weirdest one? Witness cycle classifications. I pulled up a fresh document log, clicked open the OCR system, and slit the seal. At first, I thought I did something wrong. Like maybe I opened the wrong packet, or the real verdict was tucked into another sleeve. But no. The envelope had exactly 1 item inside. A folded, reflective sheet of foil. It caught the light from the desk lamp and bent it in strange ways. Not like a mirror, more like a shimmer. And it had a single phrase etched across it, almost like a watermark burned into the surface. Witness, do not rehearse. I stared at it for longer than I'd admit. It didn't feel like evidence. It felt like a warning. Not in tone. It wasn't threatening. More disappointed, like whatever this was had been expecting something else, maybe someone else. I flipped it over. No judge's name, no date, no sentence length, no signature. Just that one line, and my own reflection, warped, staring back. Warden's assistant leaned over. Copy it, file it, don't make extras. That was all she said before walking out. I scanned the sheet, which the machine couldn't read, by the way, and printed the backup with a header that read Classification Sentenced Special Processing. No one explained what that meant. I printed the label anyway. About 10 minutes later, I was in the shared file room, looking for intake logs from the same week. My curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to see if there was a supplemental form, something that explained the weirdness. That's when I saw it. Not a file, not a form. A black binder shoved halfway under the rolling shelf, wedged like it didn't want to be found. I pulled it out. Dusty, no barcode, no tracking number. Inside, a list. Just names, 46 of them. Some redacted, others fully printed. A few I recognized. One had a red star beside it, J. Epstein. Another was blurred, but you could just make out the shape of the characters. Max something. And then near the bottom, underlined in thick black marker, Combs. Sean. Each name had a number beside it. Not a case number, a musical note. E flat dot C sharp F minor. And next to Diddy's? Looped in B. I started to ask around, quietly, like I wasn't doing anything wrong, just normal curiosity, right? But you learn real fast that certain files don't like being looked at. I talked to an older clerk named D, someone who's been around since before the renovations in 2016. She shook her head before I finished my sentence. "You want to keep that job?" she asked. I laughed. Come on, what does it mean? Loop and beat? Playback cycles? This isn't music theory. Dee didn't smile back, just said, "They only sentenced him because they couldn't erase him." That line stuck with me all day. Couldn't erase him. Later that afternoon, I tried to pull up the surveillance logs from July 2nd, for court security review, just to confirm the chain of custody. I wasn't even looking for anything dramatic, just a standard courtroom shot, maybe a glimpse of the judge handing the file over. But the logs weren't there. The entire block from 9:12 a.m. to 2:47 p.m. was blank. No footage, no access records, not even a corrupted file error, just missing. Like it had never been recorded, like the system had skipped it. I went back to the sealed foil, held it under a real mirror in the break room, just to see what it looked like in comparison. That's when I noticed something else. At a sharp enough angle, the foil didn't reflect my face. It reflected the hallway, but not the hallway I was standing in. A different one. Narrower, concrete walls, no windows. Just flickering light and a red folder sitting at the end of a long bench. I blinked, shook it off. It was probably some kind of light trick, right? The texture catching something behind me. But then I thought about what Dee said, about the ones who couldn't be erased. 46 names. Verdict files that aren't really files. Mirrors that reflect wrong. And a man sentenced not with words, but with playback. I stayed late that night. Didn't tell anyone. Made one extra copy of the foil on a hidden scan. Uploaded it to a private drive. Labeled it something boring, just in case. Because here's the thing. People think sentences are about punishment, about time, justice, law. But what do you do when the sentence doesn't come with a time? When the judge never writes the number? When all you're given is a reflection and told not to rehearse? And you start asking the wrong questions. Like, who's actually reading the verdict? Who's watching the playback? And more than anything, what do you do with a sentence you're not allowed to read, but still have to obey? Chapter 3. He walked in with the mirror. I've processed killers before, the kind that come in with blood still crusted under their nails, the kind that look right through you like they're already fantasizing about what's underneath your uniform. They talk too much, or not at all. They smell like copper and sweat and fear. But when Sean Combs walked through receiving that morning, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like anything. He wasn't let in with a chain shuffle or escorted by the marshals. He just appeared at the gate, quiet, calm. Inmate number 37,452-54. No cuffs, no fanfare, just a man in federal blues, walking like the floor had been waiting for him. Like this place already knew his name. I had his intake file in my hand, and still, I couldn't say his name out loud. Not because I was scared of him, though maybe I was, but because it didn't feel right to speak it, like saying it out loud would pull attention. From what, I couldn't tell you, but it was enough to make me stare too long when he stopped in front of me. He carried one thing, a mirror, not the plastic kind you get in prison commissary. This one was old, heavy-looking, silver trim, scuffed on the edges, too fancy for MDC, too personal. I don't know how he got it through inspection, let alone into his hands, but no one stopped him. No one even tried. He held it in his left hand, gripped tight, like a relic or a weapon. His right hand never left his side. His eyes never left the mirror. I did what I was supposed to do, called his name, asked him to step forward for processing. He didn't blink, just stepped to the red line like he already knew the script. The first scanner wouldn't read him. The second one didn't either. No data found, the screen kept saying. We ran his prints. The biometric pad returned an error. Unregistered entity. My shift partner, CO Alvarez, reset the system twice before finally giving up. Put him through on manual, he muttered and walked off. I typed his number in. 37,452-54. The profile popped up, red tagged. Shoe assignment block 3, cell 31. When I read it out loud, Alvarez turned back and hissed low under his breath. They put him in 31? Nobody goes in 31. He wasn't wrong. Cell 31's been locked down for months. Some say since the Epstein blackout. Others say even before that. No one talks about it openly. Just one of those dead corners in the facility where you dump the people you don't want questions about. Strip search, I said, even though I knew it was pointless. He didn't react, didn't argue, didn't move, and still watching the mirror. Alvarez stepped forward, tapped his shoulder. Nothing. Tapped again, harder, still nothing. Finally, he waved a hand in front of the mirror's surface. That's when Combs blinked, not at Alvarez, not at me, at his reflection, and smiled. The kind of smile that made my spine itch. We moved him to holding B while paperwork caught up. Surveillance feed showed static every time he passed under a camera. Not fuzz, full-on static, like old VHS whiteout. He'd disappear from the feed for 2 seconds at a time, then reappear at the end of the hallway. Never mid-step, just gone, then back. I asked the tech guys about it. They shrugged. Might be system lag. We've had weird feedback loops ever since they rewired the shoe monitors. Feedback loops. That's what they call it when inmates start hearing things at night. When the PA systems burp static that sounds like whispering. When alarms trigger for cells that are already empty. At intake, we offered him the standard meal tray. He didn't touch it. Offered water. Nothing. He just sat there, mirror in hand, lips moving, saying something soundless. At one point, a CO walked past and swore he heard a melody, just 5 notes, repeated over and over. He started humming it in the break room later, said it felt familiar, said it helped him think. I asked what song it was. He couldn't remember. I clocked out that night feeling off, like I'd just watched a movie I didn't understand, but still remembered the ending. But it wasn't until 3 days later that things got stranger. Cassie's testimony leaked. Not all of it, just snippets. Someone passed me a printout while I was in the locker room. You know, the kind of gossip that gets traded in a prison. This wasn't that. This was raw, detailed, desperate. She talked about the rituals, said they weren't parties, said they were rehearsals, that he made everyone repeat what they said until the tone was right, until their fear sounded believable. She said he'd sit with a mirror and whisper lines to himself. Playback. That word again. We laughed at. She said the mirror never left his hand, that he once told her it wasn't for looking, it was for remembering. I didn't sleep well that night. My face looked strange in my bathroom mirror, like the expression wasn't mine. At work, the glitches got worse. My badge, which only opened low-level gates, suddenly opened 3 doors in the shoe wing, ones I'd never even stepped through. The security logs didn't register it. Alvarez joked that maybe I got promoted in secret, but when I asked the warden, she just looked confused. You're not assigned to shoe access. I stopped using my badge after that. Started using manual keys again. By the end of the week, I was assigned med run to cell 31. Alvarez laughed. Drew the short straw, huh? I didn't laugh back. The med cart rolled slow across the hallway. The wheels squeaked against the cement in that weird, echoey way it does when everything's too quiet. Cell 31 was at the end of the hall. No lights overhead, just that faint buzzing from the vent system. You could almost hear the rhythm in it now, like a beat forming, like music trying to find its melody. I keyed in the override, opened the panel. No one was inside. No comms, no bed, no tray. It's the mirror, sitting upright on the floor, pointed at the doorway. I stepped in slowly. The mirror caught my reflection, but something was off. I leaned closer. It wasn't my reflection. It was me, yes, but not this moment. Not this version. The me in the mirror looked different, smiled wider, eyes more hollow, like she'd been watching this moment from the other side, waiting for me to show up. Behind me, the door sealed shut. And from the vent above, I swear I heard my own voice whisper. For a live playback begins Chapter 4. We called him 37,452 to 54. He called us playback. Nurse log entry, Week 1, Day 1, Nurse T. Killman. Initial vitals logged for inmate 37,452 to 54. Refused food, refused water, verbal contact, none. Held small mirror in left hand throughout the check. Appears alert. No outward signs of distress or resistance. Mirror appears unapproved. Will notify CO. Notes. Left pupil slightly dilated. Refractive gaze. Humming detected. Low pitch. Possibly self-soothing behavior. Tone repeated 3 times. Pattern A. A, E, F, A. Mirror placed at bedside. When I returned 40 minutes later, it had moved to the floor, facing the door. Food untouched. Tray cleared itself. Will monitor. Week 1, Day 2, Nurse D. Vincent. Patient unresponsive to name, verbal prompts, or visual cue cards. No signs of mental disorientation, just non-compliance. Not aggressive, just passive. Deliberate. He stared at the mirror again today. Same position as yesterday. Tray from last shift untouched. Log shows clearance, but CO said he never entered. Requesting psychiatric eval. The subject appears lucid but disassociated. Personal note. He hummed again. Same notes. Low and slow. It crawls up your spine if you listen long enough. I hummed it back. A joke, really. He smiled. Not at me. At the mirror. It felt like the mirror smiled first. Week 1, Day 4. Nurse L. Ibanez. They've asked us to rotate nurses every 2 days. Unusual protocol, but no explanation given. Vitals stable, BP slightly lower than normal, refused medication, pulse regular, breathing normal. Notice something new? Scratches under the bed frame. 3 parallel grooves, like claws, deep, metal torn. I asked CO if there'd been a struggle. He shook his head, said the bed was replaced just yesterday. He said, "No one sleeps in there long enough to scratch anything." Patient whispered during this visit. Couldn't catch all of it, but I swear I heard the names, several. One of them was mine. I've never treated him before. Right? Week 2, Day 1, Nurse J. Carver. Had a nightmare before today's shift. Mirror in the break room reflected someone else's face. Felt cold when I woke up, wrote it off. Now I'm here, and the patient has rearranged the cell furniture. Mirror is at the far corner now, angled toward the overhead light. Still no eating, no drinking, vitals normal. But here's the weird part. Weight check shows he gained 3 pounds. He hasn't eaten in 11 days. How is that possible? Checked digital logs. Previous nurse entries are missing from the system. My badge history doesn't show me entering his cell, even though I was inside twice today. The PA system chirped at 2:14 p.m. with a soft tone. 5 notes. Same as his humming. I recorded it. When played backward, it sounds like the phrase, "Do you remember the first?" What does that mean? Week 2, Day 3. Nurse Ibane. Return shift. This wasn't supposed to come back. I was rotated off this wing, but my badge authorized me for 31 again. No one knows how. He spoke today, only once. He said, "You were there. The red door. The rhythm. You said yes." Never met him before July. I swear I haven't. Right? Week 2, Day 4. Nurse B. NGOZ. Everything's a loop. I thought it was coincidence, but it's the pattern. Every 4th shift he resets. Same mirror angle, same tray, Same placement, same tone in the vent above the cell, and the same conversation. He asks, "Do you want to see what they saw?" When you say nothing, he whispers, "Then why did you watch?" My watch has been stuck at 1:11 p.m. for 2 days. It only ticks when I'm outside his block. I replaced the battery. Still broken. My hands don't shake anymore. I think they stopped trying. Week 3, day 2. Creepy thoughts. Rogueless. Hysteria. Day 2. Nurse T. Killman. Liquor. Address. Placidness. Bond. By. Gigi. Thought. Jakadme. Ashema. God. He's still smiling. Your hasn't moved in 3 days. I looked into it by accident. Just a glance. I didn't see myself. I saw someone else. A hallway. Me, but not me, standing at the end. Holding a file marked Audience. Cassie Ventura's name was on it. So was mine. Is this playback? Is this the sentence? I'm starting to think it doesn't end with parole. I'm starting to think it ends when you stop resisting. Week 3, day 4. Nurse Vincent. There's a theory going around that he isn't serving time, that he is the time. Like we're inside his sentence, not the other way around. That we're not monitoring him. We're performing for him. Playback isn't memory. It's rehearsal. Week 3, day 6. Nurse Narn Rodrigade. Final entry logged. I saw him standing today. Not on the camera. In person. Just standing still, staring into the mirror with both hands pressed flat against the glass like he was listening through it. I knocked. He didn't move. Didn't flinch. Just pressed in tighter. The humming stopped. And I swear I heard my own voice from inside the mirror whispering something I couldn't quite make out. I took his pulse later. There wasn't one. But he was still breathing. We logged it as a machine error. But I know what I saw, what I heard, what I felt. He said we never left the room, that we were always inside the reflection. And when I turned to leave, I saw my badge on the floor. Only it wasn't my name. It was his, and under it, scribbled in reverse, like glass script. You are not my nurse. You are my audience. Chapter 5. The tunnel is clean, but something's still moving. When I joined the Evidence Processing Division under Homeland's Civilian Analyst Wing, I thought I'd be decoding mobile networks, scraping metadata, piecing together busted thumb drives from abandoned safe houses. And yeah, I got a little of that. But nobody tells you what to do when your assignment file lands in front of you and it's sealed under 3 federal stamps. Red envelope. Internal chain of custody only. No cloud storage, no offsite access. The file just said, Room 46B, B, Mulpost Raid Analyst, O'Hara. Rat down it never. Post-raid analyst. O'Hara. That's me. Analyst Aaron O'Hara. Clearance level 3. Boring life, clean house, 2 gerbils, no drama. The kind of person you'd trust to inventory someone else's trauma without leaking it to the press. But Room 46B wasn't trauma. It wasn't even evidence, not really. It was something else. July 15, 2025. I arrived at the Central Processing Center in DC wearing my usual blazer and black jeans, trying to pretend like this wasn't the weirdest case I'd been pulled for. The lead tech, Marshall, handed me a metal case with reinforced corners. No fingerprint lock, just a musical lock, I'm not kidding. A digital keypad with 5 tones you had to hum in the correct pitch. Marshall did it perfectly. "What the hell is this?" I asked. "Leftover from a special projects thing," he said, not looking at me. Rated in March 24. High profile. Real spooky shit. Ammunition. I don't know why. Drugs or AAA. Useless or Judean. What's in 46B? He paused. Tunnels, drives, something about a playback protocol. I laughed. Playback? He didn't. I should have walked out then. Instead, I wheeled the case to my terminal and opened it under a bank of fluorescence that made everything look 2 shades paler than death. Inside were 13 USB drives, a bundle of film negatives, and a folded canvas map that smelled like it had been buried in drywall dust and baby powder. The map was old, not like antique old, just used, folded 1,000 times, stained in the corners, but instead of locations, it was covered in dates. August 5, November 18, March 7, June 9. Each tunnel branch was labeled by time, not geography, and at the center of the sprawl, where all the tunnels converged, was a single, underlined word. Playback. I scanned the drives one by one. No standard labeling, no folder hierarchy, just full names, like dated a 1_session / rehearsal _cut 2 looped _F minor audience _original Waveview high tune. He opened the smallest drive first. A single video file, no sound, grainy, like it had been shot on VHS and upscaled badly. Diddy, walking alone down a tunnel lined in exposed rebar, concrete dripping at the edges, holding a lantern, his steps didn't echo. His reflection followed him in the puddles, but the reflection moved half a second ahead. At the 3:33 mark, he stopped, turned to the wall, pressed his palm against a dark patch of concrete, and whispered. They promised playback, they delivered rehearsal. The tape glitched. His mouth kept moving, but the audio dropped, then popped, then reversed. He stared into the camera. The kind of stare that doesn't blink, doesn't acknowledge, just bores through you like he already knows you're watching from the wrong time. I paused the video, wiped my palms, rewound. At 5:12, I saw a flicker, a frame. In the bottom corner, standing just behind the lantern glow, was a figure, blurred, face half covered, wearing a gray blazer and black jeans. My exact outfit. It was me. It wasn't possible. I had never been inside that tunnel. I had never even set foot in MDC. But the posture, the mole on the cheek, the tilt of the shoulders, it was me. And I was watching him. Or maybe following. Or maybe rehearsing. I slammed my laptop shut, checked the room. No one else was in the pod. Told myself it was AI generated, that the footage had layered identities to obscure real participants. But the file wasn't metadata spliced, no layering, no AI tags, just raw, analog digitized footage, timestamped 3 years before I ever got clearance. I left the office early, went home, poured a glass of wine I couldn't finish, sat on the couch for hours, playing the footage again in my head, trying to reverse engineer what the hell I was seeing. At 2:11 a.m., my home alarm went off. Motion detected kitchen. I froze. Grabbed the baseball bat I kept under the bed, stalked forward in slow steps. Nothing. No break-in, no open windows. to something sitting on the kitchen table that wasn't there before. It's a mirror. Not mine. Silver trim. Edges scuffed. Same one from the cell photos I'd archived last week. It stared up at me like it had been waiting. The surface didn't reflect the kitchen light. It shimmered like metal held underwater. Gandinir? Not my face. My office, my desk, me, watching the screen, watching Diddy whisper in the tunnel, watching me. I screamed. Threw the mirror in the trash. Took it back out an hour later. Couldn't leave it alone. The next day, I submitted a formal reassignment request. Marshall called me into his office, said there'd been an error. "There's no reassignment file for you," he said. "It says you've already been processed." "What the hell does that mean?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know. You're listed under playback." I stared at him. "You mean the drive?" He just smiled. "No," he said. "I mean the protocol." I left without saying goodbye. When I got home, the mirror was on my desk, and I hadn't brought it there. The screensaver on my computer read, "Do not rehearse. You've already been watched." And underneath, one video, renamed in bold, rehearsal _O'Hara _final MP4. Haven't opened it yet, but I know what's inside. Because whatever they raided in those tunnels, it's not buried, it's moving. And now it remembers me. Chapter 6, The Boy with the Red Folder. I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near Shu. Technically, janitorial re-entry staff like me are supposed to stay on Tier 3. Stick to rec halls, laundry drops, maybe light buffing in the admin corridors if we're ahead on shifts. That's what they tell you in the intake meeting. No contact with special housing units, no direct line of sight to high-profile detainees, and definitely no talking to inmates under silence protocol. But that's not what happened. What happened is I showed up for my 4:30 p.m. shift on Tuesday like always, clocked in, and found my name slotted onto a clipboard I'd never seen before. Gerald W. 31 Hall Sweep. I asked the supervisor. He didn't even look up. "System reassignment," he muttered. "Just mop and go." Now, I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous, not scared exactly. I've been inside worse places than MDC. Hell, I was inside one, but 31? Everyone knows about 31. They say it's where they keep the ones who don't blink, the ones with too much money or too many secrets or too many people trying to forget they ever existed. Nobody says Diddy by name anymore. Not on paper, not in passing, just the mirror cell, or him. I rolled my mop bucket down the hall real slow, wheels squealing louder than I liked. It echoed weird in there, like the walls were hollow, or worse, listening. Cell 31 was at the far end. The glass was darker than the others, not tinted, just darker, like it absorbed light. I wasn't supposed to look inside. I looked anyway. He was standing there. Just standing. Not pacing, not sleeping, just standing near the back wall, holding a mirror up to his face like it was talking to him. The reflection didn't seem right. It moved too slow, too separate. I looked away quick, focused on the tiles. Mopped left to right like they taught us. When I hit the end of the hall, my bucket bumped something. Ha ha! Ha ha! The folder. Yeah. Thick, but soft-edged. Like it had been handled 100 times but never opened all the way. It was just sitting there, right in front of cell 31. I looked around. No cameras facing this stretch. Not directly, anyway. Which made no sense. Shu's supposed to have constant monitoring. I picked up the folder. On the front, black stamped letters read, "Return to the..." And under that, a number. Cycle 746 re-entries. I didn't know what that meant, not then. But I opened it anyway. Inside were names, 46 of them. Some were blurred out, like the ink had melted, but others I recognized. Cassie Ventura next to a small triangle symbol. Note, F minor, echo compliant. Kanye West, circled twice. Note, suspended submission, mirror variant. Mr. Ventura with a red line through the name. Note, witness tried to exit narrative. There were more. Way more. Each name had a symbol, a phrase, and a music note. And down at the very bottom, written in a different pen, shaky, smeared like it had been added last minute, was a name I hadn't heard in 4 years. Marlena White. My mom. Next to it, a small black square. And the phrase, non-verbal, playback incomplete, witness looped. I dropped the folder. Stepped back. I shouldn't have seen that. Nobody knew about that funeral but me and my uncle. We kept it private. No press, no public obit, just ashes and a church basement in Bed-Stuy. How the hell was her name in this folder? That's when I heard the humming. Soft at first. 5 notes. Repeating. I looked up. Diddy. No, not Diddy. The man in 31 was standing at the window now. Mirror lowered, face blank. He held something in his hand. Pressed it to the glass. A piece of paper. It was a drawing. Pencil on cheap lined notebook paper, wrinkled, torn in the corner. A sketch of a woman standing at a gravesite. Her dress fluttered in wind you couldn't feel. I knew that drawing. I made it. 4 years ago, after her funeral. I burned it in the sink when no one was home. But there it was, right in front of me. He held it like he'd always had it, like I'd given it to him myself. I dropped my mop. Ran. Didn't clock out. Didn't log the folder. Just ran. The next morning, I tried to act like it didn't happen. Told myself I imagined it. Stress, sleep deprivation. They said that can mess with your memory. They told us that during re-entry orientation. But when I came back the next night, my assignment was waiting. Same Clifford. Same lane. Gerald W. 31. Hall sweep. In the folder. Right there again. Wet. Sitting where I left it. Unburned. Yeah, I burned it. Took it home. Set it on fire in the sink. Watched it curl and blacken. It's still there, every shift. Same position, same pages. Except now there's an extra name. Gerald W. Osim. Everett's. Just one note. A flat. Playback begins. I started having dreams. Hallways that turn into mirrors. Rooms where the walls are lined with music notes instead of bricks. I walk past cells that don't have bars, they have screens. And on those screens, people I love are repeating the same sentence over and over. My life will operate again, without purpose, until I'm killed or injured or both. Oh my! He's not inside, he's inside us. I tried telling someone, supervisor, HR. They told me to get some rest. They told me I was cleared for system integration reassignment. But they never explained what that meant. Last night, I walked past 31 again. Didn't look inside. I couldn't, but something told me to check the reflection in the control panel. Just a glance. Just to see. The man in the cell wasn't him anymore. It was me. Standing inside, holding the drawing, staring out at the boy with the mop, and smiling. Chapter 7. We tried to transfer him. He never moved. They won't put this in the official reports. What I'm about to tell you? It wasn't filed under misconduct or inmate non-compliance or even psychological anomaly. It was logged quietly as playback interference. That's what they called it after the 3rd time. After we realized this wasn't about transport or scheduling or federal relocation. After we understood the problem wasn't logistical, it was something else. I'm the warden at MDC Brooklyn, 20 years in this system. I've seen riots, suicides, high-profile breakdowns, body bags wheeled out with the PR smile glued to the press release. I've signed transfer orders for mobsters, cartel ghosts, even politicians. But I have never seen anything like what happened when we tried to move Sean Combs out of cell 31. Not once, not twice, 3 times, and he never moved. The first attempt was clean. September 1st, routine extraction, 6 officers, 2 with riot training. We sedated the hallway 2 hours in advance. No alarms, no resistance. The door opened. The cell? Empty. No Diddy. No inmate. Just that same mirror, sitting in the exact same spot, angled perfectly toward the door frame, like it had been waiting. Episode 171, Workout, Nounces. The team swept the corridor. No breach, no air duct tampering. The logs said he hadn't left the room in 9 days, but he was gone. Or so we thought. One of the SOs on the upper floor, Mason, radioed in saying he could see Combs, said he was just standing in the corner of the cell watching the wall. The problem? From where Mason was posted, he couldn't have had line of sight into 31. The angles don't line up. The architecture doesn't allow it. And yet he swore he saw him. We tried again 5 days later. Same prep, new approach. We decided to leave the cell locked and gas the room through the vents. Low-grade sedation, just enough to make it smooth. This time, the monitors glitched. Live feed cut out for 12 seconds. When it came back, he still wasn't there. Only now, the mirror had moved. It was tilted toward the far wall, and scratched into the concrete was a fresh line, deep, jagged, carved like it was done with a key. If he is not played, he will not appear. Yeah, we ran diagnostics, swapped camera feeds, checked for tampering. All the footage from that hour? Corrupted. Every file, not deleted. Like the system had been fed a script and just kept rehearsing it. Third time was the worst. September 13th. We took the door off completely, no locks, no tech failures. He wasn't in the cell, but someone else was. Same height, same build, same uniform. Only when we asked him to state his name, he said, "Fine," and then again, quieter. I play the part that watches. This man had no record, no fingerprint match, no digital signature, no intake sheet. He didn't exist. We tried to detain him. He didn't resist, just smiled. Later, one of the analysts pulled the old footage from the night before. At 2:14 a.m., the mirror inside cell 31 flickered, like it caught a strobe light. But we didn't use strobes. No motion triggers, no cause. Just a flash. And in that one frame, we saw something else. Rows of chairs, lined up inside the cell, empty, facing the mirror. Only visible for one frame. Never came back. We sealed the room immediately. Marked Combs as inactive playback category A. Filed it away, tried to move on. But then, 2 days later, a guard named Rena radioed in. He said he was back, standing at the window. Same position, same stare. Only now he was holding up a note, pressed flat against the glass. Black ink on white paper. This one sentence. You don't transport the performance, you just rotate the watchers. That was when it clicked for me. This wasn't about incarceration. This wasn't about punishment, or due process, or the law. This was something performed. Like we were actors in a show that didn't know it was still running. One of the psychiatrists brought it up during an internal review, said Combs believed he was part of a rehearsal chamber, that the prison wasn't real, It was just a stage. Every guard, every nurse, every clerk, every inmate just rolls to rehearse. He wouldn't eat, wouldn't speak, except to say, "The trial was rehearsal. The sentence is not mine, it is yours." We marked him for observation. The observation never ended. An outside consultant came in after the third attempt. Homeland Systems, off book. He watched 5 minutes of cell footage, then said this: "Calms is not housed, calms is played." But not again. This is not containment, this is a protocol. You are not managing an inmate, you are hosting a performance. I didn't understand at the time. Now I do. Because when I walk past cell 31, I no longer wonder who's inside. I wonder who's watching. Wonder if I've been in this scene before. If the guards walking with me already know their lines. If the sentence we think he's serving is actually ours. And the worst part, we don't remember when the performance started. Because we weren't brought in. We were rehearsed. The sentence was life, but it wasn't his. He doesn't blink. Not because he's afraid to. He just doesn't have to anymore. The man in the center of the chamber has outlived blinking, outlived punishment, outlived even the names that once meant something. He sits without cuffs, without chains. No guards flank him. No lock buzzes to announce his control. He is still, surrounded by silence so complete it hums. This isn't a cell, not in the traditional sense. No bars, no bed, no time card on the wall. What surrounds him now is a chamber of reflections. 46 mirrors, each curved slightly inward, warped around him like ribs growing inward to protect an organ made of memory. Every mirror holds a face, but none of them are his. One shows a man in a janitor's uniform, wide-eyed, clutching a red folder that burns in one world and reappears in the next. Another, a nurse whose badge opens doors she never requested access to. A third, barely visible, is a woman watching a tunnel video of herself from years before it was filmed. A fourth shows a paralegal, whispering questions no one will answer, holding a verdict that doesn't exist on any docket. These aren't just reflections, these are playbacks. And somewhere between mirrors 17 and 18, there's a face you recognize too well. Years. Your breath fogs the glass. Your hand trembles just outside frame. You didn't mean to be here, but you've been watching since the beginning. And now the chamber knows. In the center of it all, he finally moves. His hand slides across the cold steel table in front of him, fingers brushing across sealed red folders, each one stamped with a musical note. He doesn't read them. He doesn't have to. He's read them all before. They are not new. Nothing here is new. He lifts one folder gently, opens it. Inside, a mirror. Not reflective glass, not polished metal. Just a flat, humming surface that catches memory, not light. And this time, instead of seeing himself, he sees you. From the corners of the chamber, voices rise. Not through speakers, not through air ducts. They rise from the walls themselves, from the fabric of the playback. The first voice is soft, almost pleading. She said, "It wasn't a party. It was a rehearsal. We weren't invited. We were assigned." Another voice, shaking. "He said I was in the freak-off too, but I've never met him, right?" Then a whisper. First smiled at the mirror, before I did, like he knew what I'd reflect. A mechanical tone follows, like an automated loop. Cycle 6 complete, playback stabilized, audience response, ongoing. You try to look away, but your head doesn't move. Your reflection doesn't obey anymore. It's no longer mirroring you. It's waiting for its cue. The lights dim. Mirrors flicker, each one like a screen struggling to load. One by one, scenes begin to play. But these aren't videos. They're memory reconstructions. A hallway, a funeral, a girl's drawing pressed against reinforced glass. A tunnel, a man whispering to concrete, holding a lantern that never casts real light. A nurse leaning into a mirror, hearing a voice say her name before she speaks it. Amy. There's been a lot of things. Hardy drops. This is devastating. Guard seeing a man in a cell that no one else can find. A technician watching a playback where she becomes the footage. His plays in loops. Each time slightly different. Each time slightly more correct. Each time more believable. You feel your chest tighten. You want to say something, anything, but you know the line already. He already said it. You're just repeating it now. A sound cue plays. 5 notes. Faint. Familiar. That melody that's haunted every hallway, every vent, every tape. You don't know when you first heard it, but you've been humming it under your breath for weeks now. At work. In traffic. Half asleep. You thought it was your turn. It never was. It was his. The lights return, but not like before. They're brighter now, theater bright, performance bright. Your mirror becomes a spotlight. You can feel it. The audience is watching. And you're in the script. The man at the center lifts his eyes. He looks at your mirror. And for the first time since you arrived, since this began, you realize something. He's not looking at you. He's looking through you. To the others. To the ones watching you watch him. Because the playback never ends with him. It just passes on. Like a baton. Like a memory. Like a sentence whispered in reverse, until it sounds like your own thought. More folders slide across the table. 8 at each one opens. Each one holds another reflection. Another viewer. Another witness. Some still think they're just watching a trial. Just scrolling through the scandal. Some think they're remembering, but they're not. They're rehearsing. The chamber resets. The mirrors align. The folders close. And the voice returns, louder now, familiar but not kind. You watched. You clicked. You whispered. You remembered. Welcome to your sentence. He smiles. It's the only real thing in the room. Because he was never the point. He was never the monster in the cell. He was the music playing underneath the scene. He was the line that stayed when all the others changed. He was the one who taught you how to reflect. It doesn't need to be here. Because you are. Final message flickers onto the mirrored walls. It's not a warning. It's a cue. Me didn't sentence him. Me sentenced the memory.